On July 11th, 1980, shoppers walked into Dadeland Mall in Miami, Florida, expecting an ordinary day. Parents held their children's hands, employees prepared for another shift, teenagers browsed stores, unaware that within minutes this peaceful shopping center would turn into a battlefield. Gunfire would echo through the mall, glass would shatter, cars would be riddled with bullets, and police officers, armed with little more than revolvers, would find themselves facing gunmen equipped for war. This was not a movie, this was real life. The Dadeland Mall shootout remains one of the most violent and defining criminal events in American history. It exposed deadly flaws in police preparedness and forever changed how law enforcement responds to armed suspects. This is the story of what happened and why it still matters today. The United States in 1980 was a nation under pressure. Crime rates were soaring. Armed robberies were common. Violent crime had reached levels not seen before, especially in major cities. Miami, Florida, was at the center of the storm. The city was flooded with drugs, illegal weapons, and organized crime. Cocaine trafficking fueled violence. Police departments were overwhelmed and underfunded. At the time, most police officers carried six-shot revolvers, limited ammunition, and little protective gear. Bulletproof vests were not standard. Tactical training for high-risk gunfights was minimal. Law enforcement was simply not prepared for what was coming. Dadeland Mall was one of Miami's busiest shopping centers. Clean, modern, and family-friendly, it was considered a safe place. Inside the mall was a bank branch, an everyday convenience for shoppers. Security was light. No metal detectors. No armed guards positioned for emergencies. On that summer day, nothing felt unusual. Shoppers moved freely, clerks greeted customers, no alarms, no warnings. But outside the mall, two men were preparing to unleash chaos. William and Reginald Harrell were not amateurs. They had criminal histories and knew how to handle firearms. They planned the robbery carefully and arrived heavily armed, far more than police would expect for a bank robbery. They carried shotguns, rifles, and large amounts of ammunition. Their intent was clear. They were willing to kill to escape. This wasn't just a robbery. It was a confrontation waiting to happen. The Harrell brothers entered the bank calmly. Within moments, weapons were drawn. Shouts filled the air. Customers hit the floor. Tellers froze in fear. Shots rang out. The robbery escalated instantly. Someone alerted police, and officers began responding unaware of the firepower they were about to face. As the gunmen exited the bank, they encountered police officers arriving at the scene. The shooting began immediately. What followed was chaos. The gunmen opened fire with rifles and shotguns, spraying bullets across the parking lot. Police officers returned fire with revolvers that held only 6 rounds. Cars were shredded by gunfire. Civilians screamed and ran for cover. Some hid inside stores. Others lay flat on the ground, praying the bullets would miss them. Police were outgunned, outmatched, and exposed. Multiple officers were hit. Despite injuries, they continued fighting, reloading by hand under fire. The mall had become a war zone. 6 people lost their lives that day, including police officers who ran toward danger while civilians ran away. Families were shattered, children lost parents, communities mourned. This chapter is not about statistics, it's about lives permanently changed. The bravery of the officers who stood their ground saved countless others. Public outrage followed. How could police be so under-equipped? Why weren't they prepared? Investigations revealed systemic problems. Inadequate weapons. Poor communication. Minimal tactical training. This wasn't about individual officers failing, it was about a system that failed them. The Dadeland shootout became a turning point. Police departments across America began upgrading. Patrol rifles were introduced. Body armor became standard. Tactical response units expanded. Training for active shooter situations improved. Lives were saved in later years because of lessons learned here. Today, the Dadeland Mall shootout is studied in police academies. It stands as a reminder of what happens when preparation falls behind reality and how tragedy can force progress. The mall still stands, but the memory of that day never fades. The Dadeland Mall shootout was more than a crime, it was a wake-up call. It changed how America protects its citizens and those sworn to protect them. As we remember the victims, we also recognize the lessons written in blood. Because history, when remembered, has the power to save lives.